Oh, it is recording. Shake it off. Shake off the cobwebs.
Shake it off. Shake it off. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Brrr.
Ma.
He. I don't know. What is John Michael C. Higgins like? He's like in Pitch Perfect. It's one of those really weird.
It's like really unique. I can't even fucking do it. Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York.
Red leather, yellow leather.
God, we'd suck in theater.
I know,
You're
right?
supposed to be a theater kid. What the fuck?
There was one, oh my gosh, there was one that I actually remembered, for the longest time, and I can't remember. If I remembered how it started, I bet I could get through all of it. It was like a poem, not a poem, but it was like a thing that you had to say, and it was, I'll remember it eventually.
Let me just gargle my wine really quick. That's how I'll warm up. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to Bothcast.
This is hashtag Bothcast, booked on a feeling if you're nasty.
If you're nasty.
Or is it booked on a feeling and Bothcast if you're nasty?
I don't know.
Either way, this is booked on a feeling, and I'm Kobe.
And I'm Corey.
And this is our beautiful, wonderful, amazing podcast about books and how they make us feel. And we
bring the books to you.
Exactly.
So you don't have to read, but you should read because
reading
reading's
really should
great.
read. Reading is really good for you.
It is really good. It's good for your vocabulary.
Exactly.
Yes.
I learn new words.
I wouldn't know because I forget words on a daily basis. I don't remember. But yeah, spoiler warning. Obviously, we haven't put that out there.
That, but like, I feel like it's kind of, it might be a given.
It's inherent, yeah.
But in case it's not, spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about these books from cover to cover.
And we're going to ruin your life.
We're going to ruin it. We don't like give specific details, but it's enough to where you're not going to be terribly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, there are very specific, I put in specific details if I think it's relevant.
Yeah,
if it's relevant for sure. But
yeah, so this is booked on a feeling, and
boy, have I got a crazy story today. Crazy.
Your book or like a personal story?
No, my book.
Oh, your life isn't as exciting as the books we read.
My life is vanilla.
I mean, same. Same.
I have nothing going on. I got work. I got dogs.
Yeah,
and
I have a roller coaster of a story that clutched me from beginning to end.
Oh my God. I just thought of something. Can I say it?
Yeah.
So you know how
is it inappropriate?
No, it's not inappropriate. It's not getting cut out this time. No, you know how I love words, like favorite words. I have favorite words all the time. In high school, when I had this crush, and every day I would post something on Facebook, and it would be like favorite word, and it was one of the words that he said that day that I just like. I don't know why I latched onto it. Is that weird?
That's the most gag-worthy thing I've ever heard.
So gag-worthy.
That is so teenagery.
Oh man, I should have put this. I should have put this in the last episode.
This should have been your embarrassing story from last episode.
No, no. This isn't embarrassing. Literally nobody knew what I was posting, but it was always on Facebook. I got like maybe 1 or 2 likes. I'm so popular.
Oh my God.
But one of them, he said at some point roller coastery. And I don't know what we were talking about. It was a theater thing. We were talking about something. And I was like, oh my God, roller coastery. That's my word today.
Oh my God.
That's my word. I'm disgusting, aren't I?
Corey said roller coastery and I swooned. Oh my God. Sidebar. Can we have an ASMR episode where we just whisper the whole episode? My God, please.
And just tap booked on ASMR.
That would be really great. Anyway, sidebar over. Corey, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm in great spirits. It has been it's been a nice day. Quite a nice day.
It's been a busy day for me.
Oh yeah, I heard. I called you and I was like, hey, I'm coming over. And you were like,
and I was like, I hadn't showered. I haven't showered yet. It's 6:00. Oh my God.
Hashtag working from home, right?
Yeah. I've really expanded my sweatpants collection. I'm really proud of it.
All right. You want to start with your icebreaker just so I can make sure we don't have the same one?
Yes. So for those who don't know, we always start each episode with an icebreaker question. We're trying this time around to make them a little bit more relevant to the episode topic.
Yeah, this episode is about cult fiction, which, Kobe, do you have something to share with the audience about the book that you chose?
Yes, I was going to do a nonfiction book.
Stone her to death.
But Corey gave me shit because he was like, the episode is called Cult Fiction.
Yep. Fiction books about cults.
So
Kobe.
I changed it to a fiction book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I feel honored that you listened to me.
So, okay. So at the beginning of each episode, we do an icebreaker question. And my question for you is, what would make you join a cult? Like, what circumstance would make you join a cult?
Let's see.
Because there's like religious cults. There's...
As far as cults go, what would probably make me join a cult is if there was some supernatural element to it. I don't care about, religion too much, but if somebody were to show me, and this ties in with the work that I chose today too, if somebody showed me some shit about like some supernatural entity that they worshipped or some magic or something like that, I would be mad interested to know more, and I'd probably like join. Maybe, yeah.
I'd be down with that. So the book that I chose is really, the cult was very restrictive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be down with that at all. Like, they burn books and shit.
Oh,
I'm not
I
down
hate
with
that.
I'm not down with that.
No.
Like, so if it was something that was a little bit freer, had a little bit more of like a broader belief system.
Yeah, excuse me, is that furnace set to 451? I'm sorry, I'm out. I can't be here. I can't be here. That's
relevancy. But yeah, I would join a cult, I think, if there was like that supernatural element that interested me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, I really don't believe in organized things.
Yeah.
Even though I was in the military.
The more entropy, the better, right?
Exactly.
Just, yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So my turn. What groups or organizations have you been a part of besides the military post high school? Because in high school, everybody dabbles in everything. They're in all the groups.
Yeah. So like what nonprofit organizations?
No, just groups or like literally it could be community outreach groups, or like you have the military.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you've ever been a part of?
I was a part of a sexual assault survivors group called Finding Our Voices in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Very great group. We had group therapy every week. Art shows. They really encouraged art therapy type of stuff. It was a really good organization.
Shout out.
I've always been a part of the Oklahoma City Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Group, the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. You see a theme here. I donate to a lot of organizations like Mutt Misfits, hashtag shout out Mutt Misfits. They take in senior dogs or dogs that don't get adopted at shelters in Oklahoma City and Norman. And my aunt's friend runs it, and she takes care of those dogs. She finds foster homes for them. Yeah, I do stuff like that. So I don't know if that counts. But
yeah, no, I mean, that doesn't count as cults.
Yeah, but like organizations in general, like those are the types of things that I support as just like different topics, different things that need supporting.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, what do you support?
No, so I've been a part of a couple chess clubs.
Nerd.
Wow, that's rude. I've been a part of a running group. I almost joined CrossFit. That didn't pan out because I'm not about to wake up at 6 a.m. And I don't know. Honestly, my job is a little culty. I'm not gonna lie. It is. It's a very like once you're in and you're in it,
you got to drink the Kool-Aid.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid.
Honestly, though, probably my work too.
Yeah.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid, or else you don't enjoy working. At my company.
Shit. Cheers to getting paid, though, right?
I mean, yeah. Question though, this may be completely off topic, and we might be completely going over our time allotment for icebreakers.
Probably. It's okay.
Would a fandom be considered a cult?
It depends on how active you are in it. You said you went to like a lot of Comic Cons.
Yes.
So if you were active in any of the actual fandoms there, I mean, that's pretty culty. Okay, so we are going to do a coin flip to determine who gets to tell about their book first. Talk about their book first.
Okay, Corey, do you want the Kobe or Corey side?
I'll do the Corey side. He's handsome. Why not? Shit.
You lose.
I always lose.
Lose again. I go first.
Yes, you go first.
Honestly, I didn't like going last time.
You know, why don't we just get rid of the coin flip and I'll go last every time?
Because it's a surprise. Okay.
All right. What book are you covering this time?
So the book that I'm covering is called The Chosen One by Carol Lynch Williams. It was published in 2009.
The Chosen One.
The Chosen One.
Okay.
Carol Lynch Williams is from Florida. She now lives in Utah and actually won the Whitney Award for Best Youth Fiction for this book. But yeah, this is The Chosen One.
Okay.
So this is about a girl named Kira Lee Carlson. She is a 13-year-old girl who's living in an isolated community called The Compound.
Quick pause, really. Every time you say The Chosen One, I think Harry Potter.
I know.
You were the chosen one.
It really fucked with me this whole time. The Compound is a gated community and is on a large amount of private property. In the book, they don't disclose the state that they're in. So I don't actually know where this was supposed to be set.
Is it set in like modern day US or something?
Like there's cell phones.
Okay.
And they definitely speak English. And there's Applebee's. So
yes.
I guess.
Modern day, yeah.
But like they don't actually say
have any
where.
Applebee's in the 1800s.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wants to say
head on down to Ye Olde Applebee.
We'll get there. Part of me wants to say Utah because this is a polygamous community, but it doesn't sound like the landscape of Utah.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, the families, just to set up how things are set up, the families live in trailers and each father has his family in like a little circle of trailers.
Does each child have their own trailer?
No,
or?
each family has their own trailer. So
each
wife.
So is it like a one man, multiple wives situation?
No, this is a whole thing. So there's several families.
Okay.
There's several fathers and each of them have multiple wives. But this is all like a huge compound, a huge congregation.
Okay, so one of them Mormons, you know?
Yeah. Kind of, because I'll get into it because they don't subscribe to Mormonism.
Ye Olde Applebee's a lot of business. I'm sorry.
You're getting me off track. In the compound, they have the temple, which is for worship, the fellowship hall, which is for school, and they have a store, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. And
then the trailers. Kira is different from her family and from the other people in the congregation because she's curious about the outside world. When she first moved to the compound, which she moved when she was really young, they like purchased this property and they made a huge thing. She found a tree on the edge of where her trailer is, where her little trailer group is. She found a tree and she carved out like a little place, like it's a thorny Russian olive tree. So it had thorns and she cut off the thorns so she could sit there. And from there, one day when she's really little, she saw a mobile library drive up.
A mobile library?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
she secretly reads because reading outside books is not allowed.
Where did the mobile library drive up to? To the compound?
The edge of the property, because so the compound is surrounded by a fence, and it pulls up right outside the fence underneath some shady trees.
Okay.
Because the guy, I guess, parks there to have lunch, but Kira started going there because the enforcers couldn't see her from where she ran to. She secretly reads. from a mobile library driven by a man named Patrick, and she hides the books in her Russian olive tree that she calls her special place. And she usually goes there to get away from her family, to get away from everybody.
Yeah.
She takes care of her younger siblings, so she's the oldest child of her mother, her natural mother. Mm-hmm. She's the oldest child. And she's very close with her sister Laura, who's 12. So I'm going to go through her family. She's the oldest mother of her natural mother, Sarah, and she calls them Mother Sarah, who's the third wife. Okay. And her father is Richard Carlson, brother Carlson. He married Mother Victoria when he was 17 and she was 13. He married Mother Claire, who he married when he was 19 and she was 13. And then he married Mother Sarah when he was 21 and she was 13.
Okay.
So they had, between the three mothers, had 20 siblings, had 20 children, 10 boys and 10 girls.
Jesus.
Mother Claire and Mother Sarah were pregnant in the book. And
so does this book only take place within like a 9-month span then, I'm assuming?
Yeah, like a 6-month span.
Okay.
And so she has 2 siblings on the way, and her natural mother had 4 children that died in childbirth.
Oh, damn.
Because they don't have like a hospital. They each take care of each other.
And they cannot leave the compound.
They cannot leave the compound. Well, that's a lie, because they do leave the compound, but it's only unless they absolutely have to, and they have to go in groups. They can't go by themselves.
Okay.
And these siblings of hers range from the oldest being 17 and the youngest being 8 months old. So,
and how old is she again?
She's 13, about to turn 14.
Okay.
So the story starts, she's just living her life. The prophet Mark Childs, who was the leader. So there's the prophet, and then there's the apostles, and there's a couple apostles, and then the brothers.
Okay.
These are all men.
Okay.
So Prophet Childs comes up and is like, we're going to have like a family meeting. So they all get in the temple to meet with him, and everyone's up besides themselves. They're like, oh my God, the prophet is great. Yeah. Well, he's been given a revelation by God that Kira is to marry Apostle Hiram Carlson and be his 7th wife in 1 month's time. Apostle Hiram Carlson is about 60 years old and is her father's brother. So he's her uncle.
Okay. Grody.
And she's supposed to be his 7th wife.
So they're like Christians. Or not, not Christians. But...
So they believe in God, but they don't actually say that they subscribe to like...
the Christian ideology?
Yeah, because they don't talk about the Bible.
Okay.
They just say that like... they talk about Satan and that books that aren't approved by the chosen ones, which that's kind of what the group is called. They're the demon's word. So... they talk about Satan, they talk about God, they have a prophet, they have apostles, they talk about heaven and hell and sinning, but they don't talk about the Bible.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so Kira is told in front of the whole, right, is told in front of her family that she's supposed to marry Apostle Hiram. Mm-hmm. Her family and her start freaking the fuck out because obviously gross, because this is so yes, as I explained before, her father obviously married women that were younger than him, but not that younger.
Not that, there wasn't that age difference. Yeah. And it wasn't like an uncle niece situation.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like really weird for them.
Wow.
So her dad immediately like says, I'm gonna go talk to the prophet and try to talk some sense into him, try to see if this really was a revelation a vision that he got from God. And while her father is out speaking to the prophet, Kira considers running away, but talks herself out of it because she would miss her family. But despite being in the limelight, she decides to go to the mobile library because reading and music are her only escapes from essentially her nightmare.
Okay.
She almost gets caught by the God Squad, which is the law enforcement group of the compound. They call themselves the God Squad.
God Squad.
And they're led by Brother Felix, who's the quote unquote sheriff.
Oh my God. I'm surprised.
Right?
I'm thinking.
Right?
Return to Easy A. I'm thinking
exactly. I thought the same thing.
The patting the heart, then the kiss, and then the hands to the air.
But they are real badass. They are armed, and they watch the borders of the property for outsiders and runaways.
They shoot them?
Yes.
Damn. Okay.
Anyway, so she almost gets caught by the God Squad, but Patrick, the driver of the mobile library, like sees the God Squad coming. So he's like, hey, hide in the back behind some of the bookshelves. There are people coming.
So she's getting past the fence. This isn't just like her
she's
on
getting
one side
past
of the fence, him on the other.
She's found a place to get past the fence in order to get to the library.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
I was thinking they were on two different sides of the fence.
No.
Okay, cool. I'm on
so
the same
Patrick manages
side
to hide her until they finish threatening him because the God Squad is like, don't talk to anybody, don't stop here, don't pick anybody up. You sit here in the shade and then you go. Patrick is really nice to her and says that she's always welcome to get a ride from him into town. Like, he's always super nice to her, gives her like book recommendations and stuff.
Okay.
And talks about his family a lot. She gets back home and she walks in on her mom's and her dad sitting in the living room. And her dad says that the prophet has not changed his mind, that this was a divine vision from God and that it's going to happen.
Okay.
Then Hiram comes over just out of the blue and demands two things: that Kira go on a date with him, and asks where Kira's youngest sister, Mariah, is. Mariah's 8 months old.
That already sounds like trouble. I don't want to know where that's going. Okay.
Do you not? Because I can skip that part.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
So when the prophet was with the family, Mariah had been crying the whole time. And apparently that is the sign of a disobedient child. So that means that disobedient children need to be punished. So he forces Kira to undress Mariah and then cover her nakedness. Like, he tells her to undress her, but then is like, cover her nakedness because nakedness is an abomination before God. So then why tell her to... Anyway, it didn't really make sense because then Kira looks at him and is like, okay, you just told me to undress her, so let me, I guess, wrap her in the clothes that you gave, that I have for her. So it's really just her arms that are exposed.
Oh, well.
Then he orders Mother Claire, who is Mariah's natural mother, to cover Mariah's face, her mouth and nose, and hold her under a bucket filled with ice water as a punishment.
Hold her under a bucket.
Like, in a bucket of ice water.
Under the water.
Under the water, with her nose and mouth covered.
And how old is Mariah?
8 months old. And they're doing this because she cried. So,
okay.
The family's horrified. Like, Mother Claire is in tears. Like, she obviously understands this is wrong, but doesn't feel that she has a choice. The father is beside himself because he's not the type of father he's not like the other fathers in the congregation that openly punishes his children. He actually like laughs with them, loves them, like talks to them rather than hits them.
Yeah.
But most of the other kids just get beat. So the family is horrified. Mother Claire does this with Kira screaming literally the whole time, like from beginning to finish. Kira's screaming bloody murder and is like, why the hell are you doing this?
Yeah.
When the baby is brought out of the water, she's red. Her skin is bright red and her lips are dark blue and she stops breathing.
Did she?
The parents start shaking her and she manages out a scream, and Kira immediately takes her away to wrap her up in quilts to keep her warm. But yeah, so she stopped breathing for like a few moments after this punishment. Kira is horrified. She's upset. She cannot believe that they would order people to do this. So she goes and hides in her tree after the ordeal. And on her way back, she finds a note from Joshua.
Who the fuck is Joshua?
So Joshua is this cute older boy. He's 17 going on 18. And he saw her from across the fellowship and asked her to teach him how to play piano. And they fell in love. And they're super cute. They're super cute.
No, I mean, okay, but you mean they fell in love prior to this, or?
Yeah, they fell in love prior to this. So she goes back and forth between the present and memories of the past.
Okay.
But she met Joshua and they fell in love, and sometimes they go to the stairwell in the temple that's abandoned. They meet there at night just to whisper. Like, they've never gone past kissing and not even making out.
Okay.
Like, it's really innocent. And Joshua knows about her secret reading and encourages it. He like tells her to bring her books with her so they can read together. And they're super cute. And he says that he wants to marry her and only her because he's almost a man and he can choose his wife. Because the women can't choose who they marry, only the men can choose. So he's like, I'm going to choose you if you'll let me.
It's not Josh, not Joshie.
It's Joshua.
Joshua.
Exactly. That's what I thought the whole time. I was like, Rachel. Yeah, Joshua he's super cute. Like, she talks about how cute he is, and when she first sees him eyeing her, you know what I mean? Like from across the room. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe he looked at me. Oh my God. Exactly. Just like that. Except without the lip lick. Because they definitely would have gotten like taken out back and beaten the shit out of for that.
You could just not say anything. The listeners wouldn't know.
But the listeners need to know. Anyway, so she gets a note from Joshua asking her to meet him in their stairwell later that night.
Is that a euphemism for something?
No, it's like literal.
Know,
okay.
I'm joking.
But before she can go meet the love of her life, she has to go on a date with her uncle. That sounds gross.
That does sound gross.
And he just like walks into her house, into her trailer, and is like, we're going to have dinner here, and your father's going to eat with us. Your mothers are going to cook for us because I want to show that I'm an honorable man. When you're 6 years old and you're her uncle, but okay, go off.
I'm honorable. Everybody's going to do everything for me.
Her father is quiet and is seething the whole time. Like, he's sitting there. Kira is on one side of the table. Hiram is on the other, and her father is like in the middle.
Yeah. And
he's just like, he does not look happy. He is upset and he's angry, and Hiram just like keeps digging at him. And the whole time Kira just is thinking about how disgusting and old he is, how he chews with his mouth open, how the hair on his knuckles is black.
To be fair, open mouth chewing, nasty.
It's nasty. And she like is plotting out
Close your damn mouth.
Right? And she's plotting about how she could kill him and the prophet. Like, it's just like she doesn't ever act on it, but it's just like, I really wish that I could kill them because that would just solve all my problems, you know?
Her and Joshua going with a butcher knife
on a murder spree.
Yeah.
So after the dinner from hell, actually that's not even the dinner from hell, it gets worse. Hiram makes Kira walk him to the gate of her family's yard when the date is over, and he tells her that he saw her when she was young and prayed for her to be his. So when she was a little girl and he was in his 20s, probably even older than that because he's 50 years older than her, he prayed for her to be his. That's nasty shit.
You see my look right now?
I see your look.
That's disgusting.
I wish I could convey your look in audio form so the listeners could see just the
Pure disgust.
Yep.
Is what that is.
Yep. And says, don't send your father to Prophet Childs ever again to talk about getting out of this, because this is happening and you don't have any control over it.
So he's got it in with Childs then. They got connections.
So Kira then launches into a flashback about a group called the Lost Boys, who are boys that have successfully...
Like vampires?
No, I wish. They are boys who have successfully escaped from the compound.
Who knows? Maybe they then went to California and they became the Lost Boys. That's in California, right?
I think so.
The Lost Boys?
Yep. She particularly remembers Bill and Ellen. Bill and Ellen were in love, but Ellen was forced to marry brother Matthias, who was 70 years old. She married him when she was 14.
He was 70 or he's 70 now?
He was 70.
And she was 14.
Yep.
This is a very problematic book that you chose.
They blamed Ellen for committing adultery and having sex with Bill when she was 17 and he was 18. Bill was banished from the compound, but Ellen was killed as an example to the other women.
Oh my God.
They killed her for adultery, but they let Bill run away.
Oh my God.
So Bill went and joined the Lost Boys. But later that night, Kira sneaks out and meets Joshua. Who tells her, which this whole book, I was sitting there like, oh, love story of the ages. Joshua and Kira. Oh my God. Meets Joshua, who tells her that he's going to the prophet the next day and tell him that he wants to choose Kira. He's like, I'm going to fight for you because we deserve to be together. And she's like, oh my God.
I don't think that's going to go well, but you know.
And I even wrote, he's so freaking cute and even asks if it's okay with her if he goes. And she's like, of fucking course. And she tells him that she loves him.
Fucking bet. Do it.
Right? But yeah, he was like, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go to the prophet and ask to choose you. Would you choose me? And she's like, duh. It's so cute. I'm like, adorable. And she describes him as looking really shy and like he thinks that she's going to say no. And she's like, you silly Billy. Of course I'm going to. Anyway, the next day she wakes up and her father tells her mothers to take her into town to buy material for her wedding dress, which nobody knows but her and Joshua, that Joshua went to go talk to the prophet about choosing her. So this is still for her gross wedding.
Ew. With Hiram.
Yeah. And so they're going to go shop at a fabric store and they're going to go to Applebee's because it's been a year since they went to Applebee's and apparently it's the shit. And I'm like, Applebee's,
$2 margaritas.
They don't even get to drink alcohol.
$2 Long Island iced teas.
During the trip up there.
It's the only reason I would go to Applebee's.
Right? During the trip up there, Kira asks her mothers if they've ever been jealous of each other. Because, like, I've always thought about that, too.
That's actually a good question.
They completely avoid giving their opinions, and they just say that this way of life is God's way. So they never actually give her an answer. But Kira remembers a time when a group of women were caught fighting over their husband in front of the temple, and the 3 women were beaten afterwards by the God Squad as like an example for the other women.
Fuck the God Squad. They're like the worst.
They are. It don't get.
They the meanest clique.
I mean,
in that camp.
Right. It gets worse. Trust me. So they get to the fabric store. And Laura is with them. So Laura decides that she wants to tag along on this little shopping trip.
And who is Laura again? Remind me.
Her 12-year-old sister.
Okay.
So it's Kira, her 3 mothers, and her sister Laura. And at the fabric store, they see all these people. And so just to like kind of set up like a picture, they dress incredibly conservatively. So they like wear tights underneath their skirts. They're covered.
So this
from
is
the neck
like
down.
this is like some Handmaid's Tale ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. So they're
they just
dressed very
doing
plainly.
Their own sweat.
Yeah. And so they completely look like they don't look like everybody else. They're getting looks. And Kira gets mad because literally a girl with a dragon tattoo calls her sister Laura a freak and makes her cry. An actual person with a dragon tattoo.
The
I'm not just
girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah.
It's Elizabeth Salamander.
Exactly.
Or Salamander?
Is it Salamander or Salander?
I think it's Lisbeth, right?
I don't
know. It's her first name?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Either way, a girl with a dragon tattoo calls Laura a freak and makes her cry, and Kira starts seeing red. She's actually pretty violent for living in a really docile community.
Yeah, she seems aggressive. I love it about her.
I know. I love it about her too. She's
trait.
really feisty. But she then realizes how different her lifestyle is to the outside world, but doesn't understand why the rest of the world is a bad place. So I'm going to read a one of the quotes that I set aside for this.
Okay.
In the van on the way to Applebee's, I wonder if the store and people milling about and tattoos, are really all influenced by Satan and his dark angels. Can it be, I wonder, a new thought, a scary thought, that everyone in the world is wrong and just the chosen ones are right? There are so few of us and billions of them.
Ooh.
So she really starts to question at this moment, like, are we really the right ones here? Because, yeah. So after the group gets back to town, Kira has her second date with her uncle at his huge house. So the apostles and the prophet have houses, like actual houses.
Yeah.
With air conditioning.
So the trailers don't have air conditioning.
No, they have fans.
Okay.
So they're suffering.
Oh.
It's very apparent, like, you know, the imbalance of power here. After their horrendous dinner, which one of Hiram's other wives serves them and like gives her like a corn on the cob with not all the corn on it,
what?
Which was like a definite dig at her, like saying like, we don't, like, I don't want you in this house kind of thing.
Hey, okay.
Do you understand?
No. that poor corn on the cob tried so hard to get all those little kernels.
Right? But she says she gets like a little quarter-sized amount of mashed potatoes and a corn cob with most of the kernels gone. Like it should have been slop. But
Jesus.
The wife gives it to her. And I interpreted it as like a dig.
That sounds like a dig, actually. Yeah. Now that you like said that.
So after their dinner, Hiram insists that he walks her home despite her protests. And the whole way talks about how they're perfect for each other and how this is God's plan and they're going to be so happy and he knows just how to treat his wives. And when he gets to her door, he tries to kiss her because he's like, this is inevitable. You can't get away from me.
Listeners, my eyes are wide right now.
Yep. But her father opens the door right before and is like, you're not married. Back up. And he like drags her inside.
Like, fuck you, brother.
Essentially,
this is yeah.
And her father's like, this is incredibly inappropriate. You're not allowed to touch her.
Oh my God.
So the moment that the door closes, Kira runs to her room and starts like rubbing her fingers into the carpet because she feels greasy. She feels dirty and greasy from touching him. And she just like talks about how she was like trying to get all the grease off, but she couldn't go take a shower. So she's like just sitting there like, ugh. And the next morning, she wakes up to Sheriff Felix, the main dude of the God Squad. He comes to collect her because Prophet Childs has called her into his office. When she gets there...
Don't tell me something happened to Joshua. Do not tell me something happened to my boy Joshua.
When she gets there, she finds a bloodied Joshua.
Is he alive or dead?
He's bloodied. He's been beaten, but he's alive.
He's alive?
Yeah.
Oh, that
Prophet
poor angelic
Childs
baby.
accuses her of being adulteress. And she sits there and is like, we never did anything. Don't know what the hell you're talking about. But as punishment, Hiram beats the shit out of her and says that he'll still marry her and train her as an obedient wife despite her like transgressions.
Oh God.
And Joshua watches the whole thing. He has to sit there and watch her get beaten. So she walks home all bruised and bloody. Her lip is split. Her family's freaking the fuck out. They're like, oh my God, what happened? Why did this happen? And she says, they just beat me. And her family tells her, like, you need to stop fighting because they're threatening to take the whole family away from your father. So they tell her father that if he can't control his child, he's just going to take all of his children, all 3 of his wives, and give them to somebody else who can deal with them.
Oh my God.
And like eject him from the community.
From the compound. Yeah. Oh my God.
So her natural mother, Sarah, goes into early labor, and she's only 6 months pregnant because
very premature.
Yep, because of the stress over Kira getting beaten, and she ends up losing the baby. And Kira immediately blames herself. She blames herself for her sister. It was supposed to be a girl. Her name was going to be Abigail. She blames herself for her sister's death and for Joshua being beaten. So she goes to sleep crying. She wakes up in the middle of the night to Joshua knocking on her window, and he tells her that they're forcing him to leave, but he'll come back for her when he can. She tries to follow him, but he says that she'll only slow him down, so he leaves. The next day, the prophet calls a meeting and essentially, like, of the whole congregation, and essentially calls Kira out. Like, he does it, like, all passive aggressively, how he's like, you gotta follow all the rules or else you're going to be punished, and, like, stands over her as he's saying this shit. And so afterwards, her family's like, why did he call you out like that? So she tells them about everything, and her family is immediately like, oh my God, how could you do this to us? They're going to be watching us. They're going to take us. They're going to separate all of us. We're never going to see your father again, and like all this stuff. So she's just losing it.
She's 13, you said, right?
Yeah, she's 13. This is all happening. So I guess I lied earlier. This is all happening in like a month span. So she's not even like close to being married yet.
Oh my God.
So her family calls her a whore, and they tell her not to fuck up anymore. After 4 days of worrying about Joshua, Kira accepts that he's not going to come back for her in time, because a week later she's going to be married, so she has to figure out how to get out on her own. She decides to go down to meet the mobile library one last time before she gets married. Patrick sees her bruises and cuts and immediately tells her that he's taking her away from the compound. She spills everything because he's like, oh my God, what happened? She tells him everything, and he's like, get in, we're fucking leaving.
Like, fuck this place.
He's like, yeah, we're going, you're staying with me, we're going to figure something out, get in, you're not staying here. Which, go Patrick.
Yeah.
They get on the road and immediately get followed by the God Squad, and they manage to run Patrick and Kira off the road in the van, the mobile library van.
Yeah.
Before they get caught, like before the God Squad gets to the cabin of the truck, Patrick gives her his cell phone and says, get to a place that has signal and call 911, and tells her where the spare key to the van is in the back of the truck, because it's hidden among the shelves.
Yeah.
They're both caught. She's taken back to her home, isn't beaten, no punishment. They just tell her father to keep an eye on her, but she's pretty sure that they killed Patrick. But she doesn't ever...
But no punishment. I mean, that's fucking awful with Patrick, yeah. But they didn't do anything to her?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
So she starts to grieve because she's like, I'm pretty sure that they killed Patrick, but they didn't actually like kill him in front of her, so she's not really sure. Her parents beg her to stop trying to run away, to just accept her fate. The next day, Kira goes to her tree to think about life and sees the van. The God Squad had deliberately put the van in front of her tree as a punishment, as like a reminder of what she caused.
Oh my God.
So in the evening, after the squad like leaves their post, Like, they don't patrol at night because they expect everybody to, like, be in their beds and shit.
Okay.
So she decides to go see the van one last time. And on the carpet, she sees all of the blood and all of the books strewn about. And she knows for a fact that they've killed Patrick because the blood was not there when she left the other day.
Poor Patrick.
She goes back to her tree and cries for his family because he talked about his wife and his son. And she's like, I can't believe that they're never going to see him again. They're going to wonder why he didn't come home. And she goes back home and snuggles in bed with Laura. But she wakes up. She doesn't know how long she slept. All she knows is that it might be close to morning, but it's still dark outside.
Mm-hmm.
And she inwardly looks at herself and is like, I don't know who the fuck I am. How did this happen? How did I get like this? And she is like, all this bullshit has completely changed me. I hate who I am. If I looked in the mirror right now, I would hate every single thing about me. But she decides to get up and she's like, I'm going to leave. So she sees her wedding dress hung up like on the door.
Yeah.
She goes and gets her mother's sewing scissors and starts cutting her dress into strips. And she leaves and lays the strips of her wedding dress around the bushes and front door of Hiram's house to like show, like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking marrying
That's
your
like,
crazy pedophile ass.
I love that. That's a beautiful fuck you. Like,
Exactly.
You want your wedding dress? Here's your wedding dress.
And she walks out to the van in darkness. She gets to the van, finds the spare key, puts the cell phone in a cup holder where she can see the screen, and starts the van. She pulls out onto the main road, past her trailer and the rest of the compound. Like, she watches them go by in the rearview mirror, and
Yeah.
she guns it. She goes for it. And the God Squad notices her leaving, obviously, and they start chasing her. She starts to see daylight at the edge of the property, of the compound property.
Yeah.
And she finally gets like a little ding notification that she has cell signal. So she carefully, while she's driving, don't text or call and drive, kids. She carefully dials 911 as she drives. And as she's on the phone with dispatch, the God Squad starts shooting at her. They start shooting at the van.
Oh my God.
And she's tells a dispatcher, like, I'm part of the chosen ones. I'm trying to escape the compound. They're shooting at me. Please help. The dispatcher is like, OMG, we're sending a cop. There's a cop in the area right now. Just keep driving until you see flashing lights. So she finally sees flashing lights. The officers drive past her and they arrest all those motherfuckers.
They get them.
They get them.
Okay. I'm surprised
And
that they didn't try to kill the officers too.
No. So the detective on site, like, her partner, it's kind of one of those like, oof, like, you know, I'm trying to think of how to describe it.
Oof.
You know, yeah. like in SVU when there's like the frustrated cop that's like, I can't believe they got away. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
The detective is that, and her partner's trying to calm her down because the detective is like, I'm going to go like beat the shit out of these people. Because apparently there's been a warrant out for Prophet Mark Childs and for the God Squad, for everybody on the God Squad. There's been warrants out for their arrest for a while, and they were waiting for them to get off the property in order to arrest them.
Okay. All right.
So
arrest all them.
Right. So the detective starts speaking to Kira. Kira tells them everything, fucking everything about the beatings, about Bill and Ellen, about Joshua, about fucking everybody.
I love how you're saying that now.
And the detective is like, you never have to go back there. We're going to take you to a safe house. And so Kira goes to a safe house. Kira goes to sleep that night and has a nightmare about Patrick in the mobile library and wakes up in a cold sweat and starts crying about all she's lost because she misses her family. She doesn't know if they're okay. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. All she knows is that she's in a new place and she has to start thinking about her life now, something that she's never gotten to think about before. And she's like freaking out, having a panic attack. She hears a little tapping at the window and she immediately thinks that it's Joshua. But when she opens the curtain, it's just a tree branch.
That's so sad.
Yeah. But she finally realizes that she's free, that she doesn't have to go back there, that her life is hers now. and she falls asleep to the tap, tap, tapping of a Russian olive tree branch on her window.
Aww.
The end.
Aww. Okay.
Cliffhanger.
I'm sad that she wasn't with Joshua.
I'm really upset that they didn't, like, explain what happened. Because, like, they don't say that they, like, toppled the whole compound, how they saved her family, nothing. They don't talk about any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of that. What's the best, worst part of the book? Worst part of the book, the God Squad, the Prophet, Hiram.
Just all those misogynistic.
The best part of the book, Joshua. Yeah. What did I learn from the book? I kind of struggled.
Don't join a cult.
Yeah, don't join a cult. I struggled with this question because I was like, I didn't really like learn anything. It was more of like seeing things from another perspective. Because like I've never been in a cult.
Mobile libraries are cool.
Mobile libraries are cool. Reading is good, kids.
Reading is good. Don't text and drive.
Which character did you like the best or least? Love Joshua. Hated Hiram. How did this book compare to others? It was really good. I'm going to skip to the next question and say, would I recommend this book to listeners? Yes, 100% yes. It's a little triggering, like, because it's a hard subject to talk about. Incest, polygamy, the whole, like, cult aspect. But it's a good book. So this was written by a grown woman from a 13-year-old girl's perspective. And
she nailed
it. It was as if I had never experienced the world before.
Nice. Okay.
Like, it was amazing. Like, the way that she could write from that point of view. It's an easy read. It's I think it's only like 300 pages.
Okay.
So it only took me a couple hours.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I'm a fast
Stop
reader.
Flexing.
I'm sorry. I'm a really good reader, guys. Do you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
I don't. Just don't join a cult.
Don't join a cult.
Don't text and drive.
Find your Joshua.
He's out there somewhere. Just look for him.
He was just so fucking cute. I can't express how cute I felt the whole time I was reading like their interaction. I was just like, this boy, he's so romantic.
Okay. Are you ready for my story?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so mine is crazy. Like crazy. Like,
I'm ready to go on this roller coaster, BB.
It's very roller coastery.
Oh, God.
I'm expecting you to have a lot of questions.
I'm glad I still have half a glass of wine then.
So I'm going to go through, who the author is real quick, and then I'm going to jump right into the summary. Okay. So my book is called Kraken, and it is by China Miéville. And it was written in 2011, and
does this sound familiar?
I'm not sure, but he's a prominent British author. So this book actually takes place in London.
His name is China.
His name's China. He's actually a dual citizen. Here, the U.S. of A,
the America,
the Americas, and the U.S. of A and Great Britain, and he is a British urban fantasy author. He's often described his work as weird fiction. Ooh. And God, let me tell you, this is a weird book.
Bitch.
Yes. He has a blog.
Me in a book genre.
He has a blog called the Rejectamentalist Manifesto. And I looked at it, and there haven't been any posts recently. The most recent post was in 2018, where he actually described being the subject of defamation and online stalking.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. I looked into that. I couldn't find any more info, but apparently people were stalking him online and
are you going to talk in a British accent during your summary?
God, no.
I think you should.
No, I'm not. Besides the US of A, most of our listeners are from the UK, so I'm not going to do that.
Hello, governor.
Stop.
I'm sorry. We did this last episode.
I know, Jesus.
Sorry.
And they hate us for it. Okay, so the book, Kraken. Are you ready to crack into it?
Did you write that down in your notes?
No, I didn't.
Oh, God, I hate you so much, but I love you so much at the same time.
Okay, so the book starts with Billy Harrow, and he is a curator at the Natural History Museum, and he often will give tours of the Darwin Center there at the Natural History Museum. And one of the big draws of the Darwin Center is this huge tank that has a 28-foot long giant kraken or squid in it. Okay. And that's like a huge draw. Apparently a lot of people want to see it. It's called the Architeuthis. And that's the scientific.
Architoothless?
Architeuthis.
Okay.
So he's giving a tour and he notices an odd dressed young man who has a pin on his lapel. And the pin is like an 8-sided star, but 2 of the...
Like the Star of David, but...
Not 6 points, 8 points.
Yeah.
It's an 8-pointed asterisk.
Yeah.
But 2 of the points are longer and have hooks on the end. This is important, I promise. It's important, I promise. Billy notices it because he's a curator at a museum. He's very intelligent, and it's just one of those things. He's prone to noticing odd things. As they're going into the main Darwin Center, this is where everybody wants to see the giant squid.
Octopus thing is.
The squid, yeah, the giant squid. Okay. Billy notices that the security guard, who goes by the name of Dane Parnell, who never interacts with him, never greets him. He always says hi to the security guard as he passes. The security guard pretends like he doesn't exist. He notices that this odd-looking young man and the security guard exchange looks and nod to each other, and he thinks it's very weird. Like I said, he notices a lot of weird stuff. So that's important as well.
It sounds like a secret society.
It's a cult fiction. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
So, Jesus Christ, Kobe.
I just remembered what the topic was. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
They go into the main area of the Darwin Center, and lo and behold, the tank with the squid is missing.
The whole tank or just a squid?
The whole thing. The tank
what
and the squid. It's just gone.
How? I have so many logistical questions.
We haven't even gotten to it, girl.
Oh my God, this is like the first 5 pages. Holy shit.
It literally is the first 2.
God.
So the police arrive, and of course, Billy gives his statements to the police and everything like that. And
how do you report that? Somebody's kidnapped my squid.
The squid's missing. Okay, that's literally it. It's like
do you
everybody
post,
gets
lost posters everywhere that post this picture on a milk carton. My Architoothless is missing.
Toothless.
I'm sorry.
You
I'm
okay?
already.
Okay.
Sorry.
So.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I promise.
So Billy's questioned. He lets them know, like, well, there was this really odd-looking fellow who had this pin on his lapel, and he drew it out for the police. He's like, this is what it looked like. This is all that I noticed that was odd, but we usually get these weird fanatics in here that they want to see the giant squid, so no big deal. Afterwards, Billy goes to meet his friend Leon at a pub, and he tells his friend Leon, oh my God, giant squid, gone missing. You'll hear about it all on the news tomorrow. So, when he gets home, his phone rings, literally the moment he walks in the door, and an impatient female cop on the other end is like, hey, come to the station tomorrow. We have more questions. And he's just like, okay. So, the next afternoon, he goes to the police station, and he's met by a chief inspector by the name of Barron. There's also 2 other people with him. There's a young police officer by the name of Collingswood, and she is the one that he spoke to on the phone. And then there is a psychology professor by the name of Patrick Vardy.
Why do they have a psychology professor?
He is
trying to get into the minds.
He's an expert on on cult and religious.
Okay, so they're catching on to this pretty quick.
He's kind of like not an informant. He's
like an expert, like an SME, a subject matter expert.
Yes, kind of, and that's why this psychology professor is there.
So they're essentially like way onto it.
Pretty much, they know what's going on better than Billy knows what's going on, and Billy is literally like out of the loop in the whole thing.
Got it.
So basically they called him specifically because of that lapel pin. He drew it for an officer. They got wind of it. They saw what he drew, and they're like, okay, we need to get this guy in here. And Billy's like, well, this guy interacted with the security officer. Like, why don't you go, Dane, why don't you go talk to the security officer? And they're like, well, we can't. He disappeared. Anyway, so they're like, okay, go home, whatever. But Billy, he's really confused. He's like, what's going on? Like, why did they call me? And it's not a police station close to the museum either. It's like on the other side of town. So it's like, why are they calling me all the way over here? It's not people that I talked to at the museum. It's some completely different police chief detective or inspector. Like, what are they, like, why were they concerned about this lapel pin? So he decides to ride the bus around in the city. He's just like, doesn't matter, whatever. And he seems to think like somebody followed him onto the bus. He sees like a hooded figure in the back of the bus that never gets off the bus. They're just like riding with him. And so after passing multiple stops, Billy waits. And as soon as the bus is about to lurch back into movement, he calls and he's like, hey, wait, I got to get off. And he jumps off right before the doors close. And as the bus passes, he sees none other than Dane, the security guard, staring at him through the window. And as Dane is staring at him, the glass cracks. Just like...
Just that one pane of glass?
That he's staring at him through. It's like really free. Like, but the way it was worded, I honestly thought that Dane had punched the glass, but he didn't. It literally just cracked.
That gave me goose flesh.
So the next day, Billy goes back to the museum. And at this point, I guess I should tell you, in his time at the museum, there are two things that kind of work a constant with his work there. First, there is an ongoing joke with him and his colleagues about him being the first in vitro, test tube baby ever grown. Like, Billy had made some joke about him being a test tube baby and how he was fermented in a lab or whatever, grown in a lab or something.
What kind of fucking joke is that?
It's just, I don't know. It happened. It was literally, it's important. I'm going to get back to it later. But in the very beginning, on like the second page, it's like a throwaway line. Like literally just a single sentence where he's like, there was an inside joke with his colleagues about how he was one of the only, like he was the first in vitro utero, like, inception.
I guess I just
like,
don't see how like that would be a joke that you'd tell like around the water cooler. Like, what about Billy the test tube baby, huh?
Well, his colleagues would go around and be like, hey, what's up, tubular? And just like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So it was just
tubular Billy.
And another important thing to mention is that as he was working at the museum, he would always hear like kind of like a glass on metal or a glass on floor sort of dragging noise. Like, you'd always hear kind of like clanking glass and like glass on like moving on the floor. He would always hear it.
But not like shattering?
No, not shattering, like being dragged on the ground. He would always hear it. Yeah, and he worked in preservation. So they had preserved the giant squid. He preserved a bunch of other things like in formalin. And he decides that like, okay, there's this weird glass dragging noise. Instead of ignoring it, like I always do for years, I'm going to go ahead and follow it. So he decides to follow the noise, never a good idea. And in an abandoned corridor full of these taxidermied mammals that they don't have on display, he finds in the back corner a large glass container, and there's a human body inside.
Ugh.
Now, this is not your normal glass tank, though. This is a cylindrical container with an opening much smaller than that of a human torso. So how did the body get inside? It's literally suspended in the formalin brine. Yeah. And it's just in there. Yes. So police are called again, and Baron and the psychologist Vardy, they meet Billy again, and they decide, you know what, let's tell this kid everything. So apparently they're a part of a group of the police force called the FSRC, which stands for Fundamentalist and Sect-Related Crime.
Huh.
Yes. So they work with making sure that cults and sects and stuff like that don't.
That sounds like it could be a really real thing.
Probably is. So they have a name for the group. They call them Toothies. Architeuthis. They call them Toothies.
Architoothless.
Yes, and they are worshipers of the giant squid. It is the Church of God Kraken, is the official title.
Of the specific squid from the museum?
No, not that specific
squid. Or just
squid,
like the species?
The species.
Okay.
To them, squids are gods. So Billy, of course, he doesn't believe them. He's like, you're yanking my chain. This is crazy. And Vardy is like, well, you can have faith in anything. Everything is fit to be worshipped. And they say that, some recruits for us, for FSRC, are better than others. And Billy is a recruit now because he worked with the giant squid. He worked in the museum. He knows more than other people do. So whether he likes it or not, like, he's a part of this now. Because they have to find out what happened to the giant squid. And then there's this dead body now. So they're like, okay, what's going on? So the next morning, Billy's friend Leon, who he had gone to the pub with and was like, yo, dude, you'll never believe what happened at work today. He comes over and Billy tells him everything. Billy's like, I don't want to, but let me tell you what's going on.
What happened was
I found a body. And a package arrives, and Leon carries it into the apartment with him. And he's like, hey, this package was on your doorstep, whatever. So Billy opens it, and he's like, it's just like this box of cloth, or it's like this boxed piece of cloth. And as he's looking at it, a hand reaches out of this small package and grabs him by the throat. And as the hand is holding on to him by the throat, a man and a boy unfold from this small package. The listeners can't see your face right now. So,
what the fuck?
And they go by the name of Goss and Subby, and they're very important. Goss is the man and Subby is the boy. Now, the man drags Billy around the flat, and Leon, his friend, is there, and he's like, what the hell is going on? And so he tries to interfere. The man unhinges his jaw like a snake and swallows Leon whole. And then they take Billy and they leave with him. And that is the end of part 1. There are 6
Corey,
parts.
what fucking book did you... Corey! I'm so confused.
It gets crazier.
A human, grown-ass man folds out of a box.
Yeah, a small box. Not a big box, but like a small box.
A small box with a little boy. Mm-hmm. And unhinges his jaw like a snake and swallows someone whole.
Yeah. So the beginning of part 2 starts with Collingswood, who is that really gruff police officer, the female policewoman. Thank you. Well, I said police officer. I didn't say policeman.
Yeah, I guess it's gender neutral.
And she had, whenever they had talked to Billy and were like, you're a recruit now, she had installed an alarm system on his flat, and it alerted her as soon as Billy was taken.
Honestly, that's really smart.
Yeah. So Billy was taken to a windowless vault, and inside there's a bunch of people in biker gang apparel with helmets on, and a naked man. And the naked man has radio dials that are on his chest, basically where your nipples would be, and classical music is coming from his mouth. And he's basically just standing there, and his mouth's open, and there's music.
Or are they dead?
He's alive. Another man is sitting there, and he's shirtless, and there's a gag in his mouth, and his hands are cuffed. And this man starts asking Billy like who he is and who he's with, and
where the guy with a gag in his mouth,
and where the Kraken is. And he commands like, turn my body around. And 2 of the biker gang guys come and pick the body up and turn him around. And on his back is a living tattoo of a face that is staring at Billy. And it's the tattoo face that is talking, not the man. And they call him the Tattoo. And he is basically the leader of another cult, another group or gang. And he's a magic tattoo. So,
Corey, just delete my story. I'm so confused.
So Tattoo wants to know what Billy did with the squid. All right. And they decide they're going to torture him because Billy doesn't know. He's not speaking. So Goss and Subby, they're like, okay, we're going to take Billy back and we're going to go torture him. So Goss is pushing Billy out of the room and he shoves Billy outside. And as Billy is shoved, he kind of raises his hands to deflect. And two things happen. Glass all in the vicinity shatters and time stops.
Ooh, bitch.
And for just a few seconds, and Billy kind of like moves a little bit and he's like, what is going on? And out of nowhere, a dark figure comes with a pipe and knocks Goss and Subby out, like down, not out, knocks them down. And it's Dane.
Dane was a good guy.
Yeah, Dane's a good guy.
I knew it.
So Dane gets Billy to a car and they take off. And as they're leaving, a squirrel jumps into the car. And it turns out that it's a squirrel that's been spying on Billy.
Corey, can I pause for a second? Does this get normal at any point? Okay. Because I need to know, like... Okay.
You'll get it all because this is the part where it's so confusing because we're following Billy. Billy's like, what fuck is going on?
What kind of LSD fueled shit?
It's weird fiction. It's weird fiction.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So they drive away, and Billy, of course, he can't cope with anything. He's like, what the fuck is going on?
Why are you trying to censor yourself? What the fuck is going on?
And Dane tells him that his old life is done. It's over.
You saw a guy talking out of the tattoo in his back and a nipple knob guy blowing classical music out of his mouth. Your life's fucking over, dude.
Yeah. So Dane takes Billy to an old church. They go down through a trap door and into a hallway with carved murals of ships and sea creatures. And it is the Church of God Kraken. And they drug Billy with a cup of hot chocolate and he passes out.
Oh, that's nice. As long as it tastes good.
So Billy wakes up and he's led through some underground passageways to a large altar room. And Dane is there with a priest. And he finds out that like they are like asking him like, what were your visions? What did you see? When you were passed out, what did you see? Because they think he's a prophet. They drugged him with squid ink and they thought he was a prophet. And they call themselves the Church of God Kraken, and that the world is coming to an end because the great Krakens are rising from the deep. And they're scared because someone stole the Kraken and it wasn't them. And they want to know what happened to the giant squid. So this whole book is about them trying to find out who took the giant squid from the museum. Clearly they're able to either teleport it or they're able to enfold it. So that's kind of where we're at, like, what is going on?
Okay, so the Kraken people are not the ones that took it. They want to take it back there.
They want to find it.
Yeah, they want to find it and put it back to where it was because it was supposed to be there.
It's supposed to be not in the hands of whoever has it.
Yeah, no, that's...
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And
I thought the Kraken people were the bad people.
No, they're not.
Okay, cool.
So they're scared, and they think that the tattoo wants the Kraken all for himself. And they think that Billy, because he worked on the Kraken's holy skin, because he was a preserver, that makes him special, that he's a prophet. And all of the cults and secret societies in London agree, though, that the end of the world is coming. Like something's coming. They can all feel it. There are prophecies. They can all sense that something is off. The air around London's charged, and like those who are clairvoyant enough, they can feel it. And they can tell that the end is coming. Back underground at the Church of God Kraken, Dane and Billy just kind of talk. He discusses how Dane is a wet worker for the crusade. So in other words, he's kind of a hitman as well. So at this point, Dane tells Billy that he can stay with his jailers or he can come with him to find the giant squid. And because Dane decides that he's like, I'm going to go rogue and I'm going to find this squid for my church. And the church is like, no, you can't take Billy out of here because he's our prophet. And he's like, Billy knows more than he thinks he knows. I'm going to take him with him and with me. And so they leave and they escape actually. And they have to go on the run because the church then sends people after them. So Dane and Billy, they go to the British Library to get info. And in front of the library, there are cats and pigeons right next to each other in a picket line. And Dane approaches the statue of Isaac Newton inside the library, and he calls him Waddy. And the statue talks back to him. Waddy says that Dane is in trouble and that the familiars are on strike, and he had no right to hire that squirrel, who is a familiar, to help him spy on Billy. So that's where the squirrel comes in.
So the animals are like witch familiars.
Yes, they're familiars. Of. Yes,
but
exactly.
There's no witches.
I mean,
it's just magic.
It's just magic. I mean,
but I know what a familiar.
There's warlocks and witches and stuff in this. Like they don't go by that name, but that's what they are.
But they can go on strike.
The familiars can. So they're called the UMA, the Union of Magic Assistants. And
God, even magic assistants have a union.
Yeah, and so they're on strike because of poor work conditions and overwork. So
that's such a normal thing out of this whole fucked up book.
So the familiars are on strike. So Dane is in trouble because he used the squirrel. And Waddy decides to forgive him, and it's discovered that Waddy was he basically was an Egyptian serf, and he was confined to a shabti. I think I'm saying that right, shabti, which is specifically created for serving their master in the afterlife. So it's basically like a clay doll that gets buried with the master in Egypt.
That's what Waddy is?
He was a shabti.
Okay.
And he was buried with his master, and he was able to get out of that by learning how to transport himself between anything with a face, like statues, not humans, but like he can basically jump from statue to statue or from
like other forms of clay.
Not clay, like anything that has a face that's not like already occupied by a spirit or a soul.
Like an inanimate object with a face.
Bingo.
Got it.
Yes. Now let's mention Marge. Marge was Leon's girlfriend. And Leon, if you remember, got swallowed whole. By
Cloth Guy.
By Goss.
Yeah.
Hitman Goss. And Marge is trying to find out what happened. Goss and Subby find her. But she's not important enough. She doesn't matter. So they just warn her, stay away, and then they leave. And at the same time, in a park, there are beetles who are on strike because they're familiars. And some biker gang people from the Tattoos gang come up and start smashing them with their boots. So they're basically just killing these familiars.
How rude!
Because they're hired to do so. And
they just want better work conditions. What the fuck?
At this point, the Tattoo hires more people outside of his gang to find Billy and Dane. And he hires a bunch of hitmen and hitwomen from around the city. And he hires a sect called the Chaos Nazis. And they're exactly like they sound. Waddy comes to Billy and Dane, and he's like, I'm all in. The Tattoo's men have attacked my beetles, and they're attacking my familiars. And we're going to find out who took the squid out of your museum. I'm going to help y'all because I have a network of familiars all around the city with the Union of Magic Assistants. That he's
fuck with my beetles, you fuck with me.
Yeah. So at this point, they do finally say a little bit more about something called the Angel of Memory. Because at this point, several times they've mentioned, like, what about the Angel of Memory? When they're talking about the squid being taken, they're like, where was the Angel of Memory? Where was, why did the squid, why was it allowed to be taken? And it turns out that all palaces of memory, aka museums and place where artifacts are stored, they have defenses, and they are called Angels of Memory. And they're basically manifestations of the memories that all of those artifacts have formed over time that defend them, that keep them from magical assault.
Some Night at the Museum shit, but
yes. Like that tablet.
Protecting?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. And so they're like, where was the Angel of Memory when the squid was taken? And Billy and Dane, they decide that they need to hear the apocalyptic foretelling for themselves because everybody's saying the world's ending, so they need to know, like, what is this going about? So they go to a group called the London Mancers, which is another religious sect. And the London Mancers are basically, they were the first magical sect, and they are completely neutral in London. They have no ties to either group or anybody. And after convincing them to help, they travel to a cul-de-sac where the leader of the London Mancers decides that he wants to read the literal entrails of the city. So he cuts the pavement open and entrails and blood spills out. And he's able to read a prophecy from this. And then the entrails melt and turn back into the concrete. And it's very odd, very crazy. But he says that there's fire. There's fire everywhere. The Kraken is rising, glass is burning, and flames turn everything into nothing now and always. So that's the prophecy.
Is this how Billy feels?
Yes.
Or is Billy just like taking this in stride?
Billy, that's how he felt up until pretty soon when we get to where he comes into his own, and things get a little bit more clear. Because at this point, we are, like I said, we're following all of these different characters. It's jumping back and forth from Billy and Dane and Waddy to Collingswood and Baron. Those are mainly the two groups that we're looking at. Collingswood, Baron, and...
Whose point of view is it from? All of them or just Billy?
It's third person. It's third person, but Billy is kind of the main character, so everything he knows, we know. So if he doesn't know something, we're not going to know it either.
Got it.
And we're just going to be lost.
Cool.
Until they describe it. So that's why I was saying, like, they finally discuss the Angel of Memory, because throughout the book, they're talking about this Angel of Memory, and I'm like, what? Why do they keep talking about it and nobody's explaining what it is? And they finally tell Billy what it is, and now I'm like, now I know. Thank God.
Okay.
So all this while, Collingswood and Baron and Vardy, they're closing in. Billy and Dane get a message from beyond the grave from one of London's strongest magicians by the name of Grisamentum. And Grisamentum and the Tattoo are complete rivals. Like they warred with each other, and Grisamentum ended up dying of natural causes years prior to all of this. So, but everybody remembers him. So they're like, where is this coming from? Like, he's dead. Like, why is he reaching out to us? They meet his Grisamentum's paramour, and her name is Byrne, and she is automatic writing for Gris. You know what automatic writing is? Mm-mm. Essentially where you channel the spirits through you and they write through your hand.
Oh, okay.
And so she's automatic writing for Gris.
She's a channel. But
she's channeling.
Is she alive?
Yes.
Okay.
She's alive and she's channeling her dead love, Grisamentum. And they're asking Billy and Dane to join forces with them. And they are like, well, we'll think about it. And Byrne and the spirit of Grisamentum, they don't like that. They don't like to hear, well, we'll think about it. So Billy and Dane leave, and Waddy returns, and he's saying, I know who took the Kraken. He's
Waddy,
like,
I knew you'd come through, boy.
He was like, his name, he's a teleporter, and his name is Simon. But Simon is basically in the field of teleportation because he's obsessed with Star Trek, and he's obsessed with Scotty. So they go to find Simon, and in Simon's flat, they find him just sitting in his filth, and he's being tormented by ghosts of himself. So essentially, Simon, when he teleported using methods that he kind of perfected from watching Star Trek, he was tearing his body down to the atoms and recreating himself in another place, but that wasn't him, it was a copy of him. So he essentially was killing himself over and over again every time he teleported. And so the ghosts of all his past selves were tormenting him because he kept... Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's really...
Oddly, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So...
Except for the Star Trek tie-in.
Well, no, like he was influenced by Star Trek. Basically, Simon was paid by some mystery person to retrieve the Kraken for them, and his payment was a working phaser from Star Trek. So a working Star Trek phaser, which, by the way, I have a replica of a phaser at home. So that'd be pretty cool to have a working phaser.
Right?
Anyway, all right. So that's the end of part 2. Do you have any questions?
So many. But I'm sure they're all gonna be. I'm gonna wait till the end because I'm sure that they're gonna get answered.
Yeah. So Wadi travels out and brings back a rabbi exorcist to help free Simon from his possession. But before they can do anything, he senses that Goss and Subby are close. And he senses that the Tattoos men, the biker guys, are also close. So they escape down a fire escape. They get away, and they realize, that the man at this point that's in the jar at the museum was one of Grissamentum's lackeys. So he must be the person who stole the giant squid, is what they're deciding.
The guy in the jar?
No, Grissamentum.
Oh, Grissamentum.
Yeah.
Got it.
Except, never mind. They find out that the phaser was enchanted by none other than a London Mancer, the people who apparently are neutral in all of this. Oh my God, stop.
Oh my God, plot twist. Sorry, I'm invested in this.
So
I'm confused but invested.
I have so many notes. Oh my God. So that night, Billy is having crazy visions. And at the same time, thousands across London just feel like this crazy shift, and it wakes everybody up. And the ones who are clairvoyant enough, they know what's happening. Basically, the angels of memory have left their memory palaces, so they've left the museums, and they've gone to war.
Oh God.
Yeah. So the angels of memory are now going to war, and they're fighting the future end of everything. So the end is still coming, and they're trying to stop it by finding the Kraken. Marge, because she's still involved.
Leon's girlfriend.
The late
Leon's girlfriend.
Yeah. She's still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So she, of course, turns to Google. Good old Google. she's
Google go solve all my problems.
She's meeting everybody on online forums, and she basically, so what she has to go off of is that Billy told Leon about some Kraken cult.
Yeah.
And Leon immediately texted her about it before Goss and Subby showed up and killed him.
So she's just asking around about the Kraken cult.
Yes. Dane and Billy, they go to confront the London Mancers, and they discover that the London Mancers were actually altruistic. They were trying to steal the Kraken before it got stolen. And the guy in the jar at the museum was killed by them because he was also there at Grissamentum's behest to steal the Kraken as well. So London Mancers swooped in, even though they're supposed to be neutral, they're supposed to be Switzerland, they swooped in and stole the Kraken first because they were trying to save the world.
Okay, so the London Mancers enchanted this phaser, and they were the ones that hired Simon?
Yes.
To go steal the Kraken because they
saw that they
foresaw that it was going to be stolen, so they were going
they foresaw that the Kraken was going to get destroyed, and that was going to bring on the end of the world. So they went and stole the Kraken so that they could keep it safe.
But then why'd they kill the jar guy?
Because he was there to also steal the Kraken.
But we don't really know Grissamentum's intentions right now.
No, we do not.
Got it.
Yes, he's still still a big mystery right now.
Okay.
So
but the London Mancers are still sort of neutral. They're just trying to save everybody from
basically chose a side. At this point, they chose a side because they killed one of Grissamentum's people. So they chose a side. But it's
really in good intentions because they're trying to save everybody from facing the end of the world. So,
yes. So we're at the end of part 3 now. Billy and Dane are waiting for the London Mancers to take them to the Kraken. And Billy, he senses that people with ill intentions are coming towards them, and they get surrounded, and Dane gets captured by the Chaos Nazis. Before they can capture Billy, the Angel of Memory from the Natural History Museum shows up. And girl, you do not want me to describe what it looks like because you're just going to be confused. Just let me tell you, the Angel of Memory saves Billy. So from here, we're going to be moving pretty quickly because a lot of that is just setting up the stage for the conflict. So Marge meets another dead end when she finally finds the Brotherhood of the Blessed Flood. So the Flood Brothers. They turn her away because she's like, well, I'm trying to find out about this Kraken. And they're like, nah, girl, we don't deal with Krakens. We're just ambassadors to the sea. And the sea has nothing to do with the Kraken being taken. So she needs to go find protection to save her from Goss and Subby. But she just need to leave. She needs to get out.
Well, I mean, she doesn't really need protection, though, because Goss and Subby...
But she's getting involved now.
Stupid, dumb bitch syndrome.
She's trying to find Leon. And it is around this time, too, that the London Mancers, because Billy wants them to, they send a message to her. Leon's dead, stay away. And so she's like, okay, so I'm not going to stay away. I'm going to find out what happened.
Damn it, Marge.
So Billy is determined to save Dane because he got captured by the Chaos Nazis.
Because they're besties at this point.
Yeah.
They're brothers in arms.
So he goes on this like quest to find out why the angel protected him. And he finds out that the angel protected him because to the angel, he is known as the Bottle Messiah. And that is because he was the first in vitro test tube baby. Which was a joke between him and his colleagues, but the Angel of Memory heard them in the museum and thought it was real.
That's like low-key really sweet.
So the Angel of Memory thought that he was the Bottle Messiah, so he's protecting him. And so Billy also encounters the member of the Blessed Flood, who Marge had talked to.
The same guy?
No.
Okay,
yes, it is the same guy. And he had approached Billy because he was like, listen, this chick, he doesn't say it's Marge, but he's like, somebody has come and talked to us about the Kraken, and the sea is interested. The sea wants to talk to you. So
he wants to talk to Billy?
Yes.
Okay.
So Billy does meet the sea at the embassy, the sea's embassy.
The embassy.
Embassy, which is a house that is full of seawater, and marine animals. It's just...
But a house?
It's a house in the middle of London.
In the middle of London.
That is full of water.
London is notoriously very landlocked.
It's a house full of water. Billy begs the sea to help him rescue Dane. And this is probably my favorite part of the book too. So Billy convinces the sea to help him rescue Dane.
Can I just say, yes. I don't know why the sentient sea is what fucked me up the most out of this whole book.
The guy with knobs for nipples and the classical music confused me. That's why I put him in here.
I'm more confused about the sea having an embassy in the middle of landlocked London in a house just full of seawater and marine life, communicating with someone. That's what's fucking me up the most. And I don't know why after everything we just heard.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Okay. So
I'm like crying. I don't understand this book.
So Chase, I told you this is why it's heavy. It took me so long to read. I was like, what is going
I get
on?
It now.
The Nazis have Dane imprisoned. They have killed him twice and brought him back so they can kill him again for a third time.
Damn.
Because they're using magic to bring him back to life. And in what I think is poetic justice, a Nazi tells Dane that no one will save him, no one knows where he is, and at that moment, the entire warehouse that they're in just bursts with seawater, and the Nazis get pulled down and they drown in like just inches of seawater. And the sea bursts like every single pipe, and like
no one fucks with the sea.
yeah. And Billy comes in with his phaser, and he just shoots him.
What is this book? China, I need to meet you in person because I don't get. Where do you get this shit from?
And that's the end of part 4. Okay, so Tattoo, the gang leader, has declared war on the city. So his henchmen...
On the city of London?
Yes.
Okay. On
the whole city. So his henchmen have started attacking all the familiars and literally anybody who's not on his side. And so to get back at Waddy, because they're like, Waddy is on Billy and Dane's side. We're going to attack all of his union members and kill them all. So the London Mancers, so they've rescued Dane. So Dane, Billy, and Waddy go with the London Mancers to find a the Kraken. They show them the Kraken. And the Kraken has been stored in the back of this lorry, which is just a very big truck. And they're keeping the Kraken like safe by just constantly just driving it around. Like they're not staying in one place with it. Now, the trio, Billy, Dane, and Waddy, discover that this guy named Cole, they discover is the one who cremated Gris, which is important. They set out to find Cole, and he's a professor at a university, and Cole attacks them on sight and marks them with basically just like this. He basically marks them somehow with some sort of fire magic where they just the smell of smoke just lingers around them and they can't get rid of it. So they discover that the reason Cole attacks them, they discover that Cole is being blackmailed to make weapons in exchange for his daughter's safety because his daughter was captured. At this time, Collingswood, the police officer, Barron, the chief inspector, and Vardy, they decide that they're going to spring a trap. So they spread rumors about an end of the world party. Now, this end of the world thing, apparently prophecies about the end of the world is like a common thing with all these different cults, because each cult has its own prophecy about how the world's going to end. So every time,
that's like a real thing though.
Exactly. So every time they get together, they do some extravagant like party, like, oh, it's the end of the world. Let's all get shit faced. And so the police officers decide like, okay, we're going to create our own end of the world party and see who shows up.
Hey, I know that everybody's like fighting and killing each other right now, but let's party.
Yeah. Upon this end of the world party that comes up, the occult underbelly of London converges on the event like an illegal rave. It's just a bunch of people come out of the woodwork. All of these magicians, magic people, all of the familiars, everything. And while they're there, Marge comes. Marge is there, but she manages to escape, and two groups come to the center, and basically they just have this all-out fight. And as they're fighting, Dane and Billy, because they're marked by Cole, get tracked down by Grissamentum's men, and they're chasing them through the streets. And Billy's like, hold on, I think I saw Tattoo back there. So they turn around and they lead them straight to Tattoo. And as I was saying, Tattoo and Grissamentum have been rivals.
They got a beef.
So they start attacking each other, and Billy and Dane capture Tattoo, because remember, he's just a tattoo on the back of this like man. You discover later that it was all this trick that Grissamentum did to the Tattoo, because the Tattoo used to be a real person. And they transferred his consciousness into magic ink on the back of this random unexpected man. Okay, so across the city, buildings are starting to go up in flames. Okay, just spontaneous combustion, buildings are burning. Firefighters are being called, but when they get there, they forget why they were called. And the building never existed to begin with. So literally, things are getting burned out of time. It is the end of everything forever and always. In other words, fire magic is destroying London piece by piece, and it's obliterating it from memory, which is why the Angels of Memory have gone to war, because
they're trying to preserve
everything. London. And that's why the London Mancers have also chosen to try to save the Kraken, because they're like, we think the Kraken's going to burn and that's going to bring on the apocalypse. Dane and Billy take the Tattoo prisoner, and as they're interrogating him, the gun farmers, an elitist assassin group that pretty much like another one that everybody name dropped, but they didn't really talk about, they show up and start shooting everybody. Grissamentum has contracted the gun farmers
to kill
everybody.
Oh, to kill just everybody.
Everybody. Got it. Because he wants the Kraken.
Yeah.
The London Mancers get attacked and most of them die. Then the Church of God Kraken gets attacked and most of them die. Now, in the Church of God Kraken, Billy, they go there, and the library that they had is completely empty of books. There's no books there. And Billy finds a bunch of paper airplanes strewn about, written with gray ink all over them. And they come to the realization that Byrne, the love interest of Grissamentum, was not automatic writing. She was putting ink to paper so that Grissamentum could write himself, because his ashes were turned into magic ink. And that's how he was living. He was living as magic ink. This is why he wants the Kraken. He wants the squid ink, because the squid ink is magic. So he wants that so he can control the world and rewrite life as he...
just getting ready to ask, have we figured out why the Kraken is important?
That's why the Kraken's important.
This is why I wait for my questions.
Yeah. So Billy uses science. For once, they use science for something to draw the ink out of the paper so that they can interrogate him. And basically
they can interrogate magic ink.
Yeah.
Got it.
So basically they just put the ink on paper and it writes itself. And so they ask it questions and it turns into words.
Oh my God. It's like the diary of Marvolo of Tom Riddle.
Tom Riddle's diary.
Got it.
And so the ink somehow notices Paul. Now, Paul is the person who has the tattoo on his back. So he's a guy. And Paul at this point has been an unfortunate player and everything because he's been forced to just do everything that the tattoo tells him to.
Yeah.
And at this point, the tattoo has been gagged on his back. They put tape over its mouth so he can't speak. And the ink sees Paul and is like, hey, the London Mancers are going to kill you. You don't think they're not going to? Like, you have the tattoo on your back, so I can save you. And like, there's kind of a standstill. And then Paul steals the magic ink, runs away, and they don't chase him. So he finds a hiding place and he's thinking like, am I going to save this ink? Because this ink is telling me like that he's going to offer me amnesty. I escaped the London Mancers because they were going to kill me, but like, fuck Grissamentum, fuck this ink. So he pees all over it. He's like, fuck you. I'm going to kill you. So he pees on it. And, but that's just a small bit of ink. That's not actually Grissamentum.
It's not all of him.
Yes.
It's just a small little part.
Yeah. And it's basically like
so it's like a Horcrux.
Yeah. And it's basically like a big fuck you. Like, I don't trust you either. I don't trust anybody.
I piss on your ink.
Yeah. I piss on you. So, Paul had also stolen Billy's bag and he finds Marge's number in it. And he's like, this is somebody who knows Billy. Let me call her. And they decide to meet. And so that they decide to meet. And so they meet in a parking garage. And Paul's like, listen, like, I want to talk to Billy and Dane without the London Mancers. Like, I want to figure this out. And so Dane, on their way, because they're just with the London Mancers, they go back to the church and they discover that Grissamentum is at this ink plant. Because where else would he be?
Because where else would a sentient ink being be?
Yeah.
The C's in a house. The ink man is in an ink factory.
Yes.
The squid are on the way to the ink factory. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So Waddy gets a message.
I was wondering where he went.
Yeah. Waddy gets a message from Paul, who is with Marge. And he like goes to Paul and he's like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, you want to talk to Billy and Dane? Why don't you just talk to me? And he's in this crucifix that's hanging. They're in a car. He's in this crucifix that's hanging from the rear view mirror. And Waddy's in this crucifix of Jesus.
Waddy is my guy. I love Waddy.
And he's like, why don't you just talk to me? And Paul's like, no, get out of here. Get out of here. And then Goss and Subby show up.
Oh, fuck.
And Waddy tries to escape. And Goss pulls out his original Shabti, his clay doll that he was originally bound to. And he says, do you know how long it took me to get this? And then
Corey, pause.
He destroys it. He did. Yeah. Hold on.
I swear to God, if you tell me that I'm getting actually really emotional about this.
Yeah.
If you tell me Waddy's dead, I'm going to leave.
Well, Waddy's original Shabti was destroyed, and that is what anchored him to this plane. So, I mean, your boy's gone.
Really?
No, just for now.
Okay.
Waddy's
so
the
Paul, best part.
Yeah. So Paul, at this point, the guy who has the tattoo on his back, gets out of the car and he's like, yo, I planned for y'all to intercept my message. Like I knew, like Goss and Subby, I knew y'all would show up. Y'all are working with the tattoo. I have this bitch here. She's just bait for Billy. I'm with the tattoo. I'm with you guys. Like I was just trying to get rid of all of them and escape them. So he's like, listen, give me a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut this gag off the tattoo, and that way y'all can talk to him. And as he's doing that, Marge gets out of the vehicle and starts to kind of crawl away, and Goss goes to intercept her. As he does, Paul's like, you know what? One more thing. Goss, you heartless bastard. I know where you keep your heart. And he takes the scissors and plunges them into Subby's neck. So he just stabs this boy in the neck multiple times, and Goss eventually just is like tries to run back to him, but then collapses and dies, and Subby turns to dust.
You got me.
Yeah,
I thought for a second there that Paul was gonna betray everybody.
Collingswood after that shows up. She tases Paul, and she takes Paul and Marge in handcuffs. She's like, this is ridiculous. Y'all are coming with me to the station. It is now the night of the attack. The Kraken bit, the rest of the London Mancers, Dane and Billy, arm themselves with bottles full of bleach to destroy the ink. They have little spray bottles full of bleach to spray on ink, and they go to this ink plant. The London Mancers go in first, and the gun farmers appear, and they start this whole battle, and the Kraken bit go in. Waddy surprises them by reappearing because they actually thought that he was dead.
Bruh.
But he's very weak because his tie to our plane is no longer,
Yeah.
So Dane and Billy make their way into the plant, and they discover that the library from the Church of God Kraken is being rendered for its ink, and it's being combined with Grissamentum so that he can gain all the knowledge of this Kraken, all the knowledge of the squids.
So when he absorbs other ink, he gets the knowledge that ink.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. And so Byrne, the woman, his love interest, is there. And as Dane dives in to spray bleach on the bucket of ink, Byrne jumps in his way and mists him in the face with ink. And the ink gets into Dane's system, and Grissamentum takes over Dane's body and kills him from the inside.
Dane, no.
So Dane's dead.
No one's going to bring him back. Damn it.
Billy escapes, and a few others escape. And Billy convinces Waddy to travel to Marge, who's with Collingswood and
Paul.
And he's like, listen, I have a message for Collingswood and for Marge and them. And Waddy goes, and they go and they get Simon, the teleporter. And at this point, he is guy. Yes, and at this point he has been healed from his issues, his many things. Yes, his many spirits. And with Simon, they go to the Sea Embassy, the EmbasSEA. They meet the London Mancers there, and they teleport the Kraken into the Sea Embassy, thinking that if the Kraken's in there, it's going to be safe because no one fucks with the sea.
Honestly, why would you fuck with the sea?
Yes. Well, Grissamentum fucks with the sea.
Griss.
So he comes in his paper maelstrom, just all these flying paper airplanes covered in his ink. and Byrne comes carrying a big, pot of ink with her, and they burst into the Sea Embassy, and water goes everywhere, and the house is drained of all water, and there's little flopsum and fish and a shark and stuff just like flopping on the ground.
So my imagination is a tornado of paper, like a dirt devil of paper, and a woman carrying a bucket of ink, and they opened a door and all this water just came out.
Yeah, they burst the door
correct?
Open. Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
Tracking.
So basically, the Grissamentum and Byrne, they have finally gone to the Kraken. So the whole house has been drained. So Grissamentum, with all his paper and his ink, and Byrne go inside, and Billy and Collingswood sneak into the back. Collingswood causes a distraction, and Billy charges in and shoots the gun at the jar. Ink goes everywhere. He bursts the jar open. Ink spills everywhere, so Grissom gets spilled everywhere. But a little bit of him goes into the big container with the Kraken, and his ink merges with the squid ink that Byrne had been able to draw out of the Kraken, and he basically becomes this swirling ink storm that is able to rewrite the universe. And kind of a way to describe this is he willed that there was no guns, so Billy's gun disappeared, and Billy hid behind a wall, and suddenly the wall disappeared because Grissom can rewrite everything now that he is godlike squid ink, and he's just like this huge like towering pillar of ink. Okay. But Billy fought back. In a Hail Mary attempt, he denied the existence of the Kraken. He said that he demanded it was a specimen. It was, in calling it by its true self, it came to life. So basically he's like, that's not a Kraken anymore. It's dead. It became a specimen the moment I put it in that jar because I'm the bottle messiah, bitch.
Damn.
And he willed the Kraken into life. And he's like, because it's not a Kraken, it's a specimen. You are not powerful. You're not all powerful. And the ink was able to slowly overpower the Grisamentum ink that was mixed in with it and metabolized it. And Grisamentum died.
This sounds like some philosophy shit.
Yeah. So then Barron finally arrives because Collingswood was with them, but Barron wasn't. And he's like, listen, I'm going to arrest Billy. But before he can do it, they're all like, wait a second, like the end of the world, we can still sense is coming. So Billy suddenly realizes why the Angels of Memory have gone to war, but they haven't actually joined them in their fight. And he's like, he turns to Simon and he's like, literally, I need you to transport me back to the Darwin Center right now. And like, as the reader, you're like, what do you mean by that? What's going on? And so Simon's like, okay, but you're going to die. Like your real self's going to die and you're just going to be reborn at the Darwin Center. He's like, yeah, I don't care. So he does that. Billy goes back to the Darwin Center and Vardy is there, the psychology professor. And he is behind everything. He's behind the end of everything the whole time. This whole power play between Grisamentum and Tattoo, this wild journey that I've taken you on, ain't shit. Because Vardy was a religious person, and at the very beginning, it's talked about how he's just bitter because his God was proven to not exist. And so what he wants to do is he wants to destroy Darwin's samples and Darwin's legacy and make it to where evolution never existed ever at all in the history of man, so that people can go back to just believing in pure old creationism.
Biggest plot twist of the century. Forget finding out Darth Vader was Luke's father. Forget everything.
So so Vardy used to be religious, but was proven that his God was nothing but a belief.
This is why I questioned why a psychology professor was on the police force.
Yeah.
Rewind.
So Vardy, he was the one who had kidnapped the pyromancer's daughter to blackmail him to create the fire that can destroy everything. Vardy was now intent to burn Darwin's specimens out of existence so that people never question their faith. And it's quoted in the book. It says, what would evolution be if humans had not noticed it? Nothing, not even a detail. In seeing it, Darwin made it be and always have been. So basically, because Darwin noticed evolution, it became a thing. So he wants to get rid of evolution. And Billy is held at bay because Vardy's firing at him. But the Kraken suddenly appears too. So Simon, after he teleported Billy to the museum, teleports the Kraken there as well. And the Kraken, it's still alive. It's alive now.
Oh, it's alive because it...
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And as Vardy throws the time fire towards Darwin's specimens, the undead Kraken, one of the hunting limbs, one of the longer limbs, reaches out and snatches the fire out of the air. Then with the other hunting limb, grabs Vardy, and they both go up in flames. And when they were gone, Billy knew he was safe from no one, that his recent travels involved hunting for a cryptid nothing, and Barron and Collings would eventually show up, and they never had a third partner. So Vardy was completely wiped out of existence. They go on this whole wild, crazy journey, and they know they went on a crazy, wild journey, and they know they did it for some reason, but they don't know why. And that's the end of the book.
So you're telling me none of this happened?
It all happened.
But it happened, but it was erased.
Two
so everyone
specks.
has the feeling.
They have the feeling that something was in that place in their memory. But the world is still
on fucking fire?
No, that's it. I was just going to say, I did have...
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
I did have a couple of favorite words. Heresiarch, the founder of a heretical sect. And then also Gugaw.
What's a Gugaw?
A showy, useless thing. I liked that word too. And then, yeah, honestly, if I were to... I'm going to leave my analysis really out of it, but if I were to recommend this book, I mean, yeah, I would. It's just so crazy. There's so much. I have a headache just retelling it. It took me forever to get through it. And the funny thing is that the author was great at actually like recalling moments in the early part of the book that I was like, I didn't think was important, so I didn't make notes. And then suddenly they bring back Vardy, and they bring back his whole religious background, which they had spent maybe just a paragraph at the very beginning just talking about. I was,
yeah.
I just...
we hadn't talked about Vardy in a while.
Because he wasn't in the book, really. I mean, he was at the beginning.
And all of a sudden you're like, no, he was the reason why all this shit went down.
Yeah, and somehow Billy discovered it. He realized it. Because of a comment, literally because of a comment Collingswood made about how Vardy was upset that his religion was proven wrong. And somehow, at the beginning of this book...
Honestly, I'm a little upset because I feel like it invalidates the whole story.
Well, no. So,
because at the very end,
it wasn't like deja vu. They actually did this stuff. All this stuff still happened, but...
So they remember doing all of it, they just don't know why.
Yes. So
okay.
So in other words, the London Mancers they don't remember what they stole. They just know that they think that they stole something, but they don't know what they stole.
Okay.
They just know that something got stolen. But it wasn't a Kraken because the Kraken never existed. So it's kind of well, then why were we driving around in circles in this lorry? It's
an interesting concept. To be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to read this.
Yeah.
Because I'm stressed.
I feel like you could have made 2 or 3 books out of this.
Yeah, that's easily. Lot for one book. If it was a series, that's completely different.
But the world building is so profound. There's so much, and you basically are thrust, which I love. I love about stories that just throw you into it, and they don't have you. Billy is that token character where you learn as he learns sort of deal. Mm-hmm. But but
he's learning really quickly.
Yes and no. The first half of the book, he's still questioning everything that's happening, and then finally I think after the point where Dane gets captured, Billy's I'm gonna find Dane because he's been so good to me and he saved my life, and he goes on this mission to find out about the Angels of Memory and find out all this other stuff. At that point, that's when Billy really comes into his own. Before that, he doesn't understand fucking anything that's going on.
Okay.
Which same. I didn't either until he started to. That's kind of where I started picking things up. So, but anyway, we have run super long on this episode. So what is our next?
Do you have anything else to say before we?
I don't.
Okay.
I've talked myself out. I'm sorry.
Just to say, this was a great book to hear about. It's just, I'm really confused. And I think it's because I didn't read it. I think that it probably could have been made into a series and that would have been really interesting. It just seems like a lot. It seems like a lot.
You're just, like I said, you're just thrust into a world where you don't know anything that's going on. So,
but anyway, so good book. So our next episode, I'm trying to sound peppy. Our next episode, is Electro Love.
Yes, it is.
Which is essentially incest, but
we wanted
softer word.
Yeah, we wanted to choose a softer word.
I don't want to just put incest and have everybody be confused. So we're going to say
Booked
Electro
on
Love.
incest, guys.
Booked on incest. No, it's called Electro Love. So tune in next week.
Tune in. We promise it won't be this long.
Oh my God. I promise it's not going to be this complicated.
Sorry for all the headaches, everybody. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.
Peace and love. Bye.